Happy Sunday, everyone. It's 4:30 here in Tampa. Oh my goodness, and it's Sunday after a whirlwind weekend back to my hometown in Virginia. 48 hours in and back. So that is quite a journey. I'm coming to you a little bit later because we had the 40th high school reunion last night in back home in Great Bridge, and it was amazing. First I want to shout out to the reunion committee because while I've been the spokesperson for it and kind of the person on Facebook that's promoted it, the committee back home did all the work. Incredible decorations, wonderful food, lots and lots of door prizes that people hustled and put into place. The band rocked it. You saw some of the live videos last night from the venue. I had to take one of them down because of copyright issues, but the band did an amazing job. And yours truly even got some boogie shoes on, which is so out of character from my high school days. I was, despite a person that people looked up to and put trust and faith in as a student body and class leader, I was super painfully shy, super self-conscious about my height and my weight. But I went into this reunion with a lot of intention, which is one of Oprah's favorite words. She references that a lot in terms of how she wants to live her life. So going into this reunion weekend, I had certain intentions that I brought to the weekend. One of them was, I'm going to dance, and I don't care what people think. Boy, I tell you, that's a real blessing of being at this age, is that a lot of those issues are released as you get older. You step more and more into who you are, and you really don't care what other people's opinions were. And the other, so that was one intention. I was going to put my boogie shoes on, and I was out there multiple times, and it was fun. Yeah, I don't have the best rhythm. But that's okay. I was enjoying it. I was dancing onto the Lord in a sense. Didn't really care what the form or fashion is. I was just having a good time. Another intent that I had was that I was going to spend time with my classmates and really get to know them as people. Now, I will raise my hand again and say, for every person who came up to me and says, do you know who I am? 99 out of 100 times that happened, I couldn't put the face and the name back together. And when they said their name, it was instant recognition, but I had in my head locked in the hairstyle, the hair length, the hair, for the guys. It was funny because it was harder for me to recognize some of the guys because, we're a little more follically challenged than we were back in the day. But wow, what great people at this reunion. And what I really was amazed at, and it was last October too, when we got together for the pre-event, was the depth of people at this age. We've lived a lot of life. We have a lot of war stories and war wounds, but the depth of the folks there at the reunion was amazing, and so worth mining. So worth, my biggest regret from the reunion weekend was, gosh, I wish we had had some sort of quiet venue to really get down into some conversations, because both evenings the music was really loud. It was challenging to hear and challenging to have a conversation, but the depth of the conversations were amazing. And again, I can't put enough words onto my appreciation for the committee and what they did. You know, when I heard the decorating committee had been up on Friday night after our happy hour event to midnight working on things, then back at the venue Saturday morning from 10 to 3. Wow. That's just a ton of work. Hi. So, and it was fun that people said, hey, when are we doing the next one? And they don't want to wait 10 years. Well, I think that also underpins another dimension of this age of life, is that we all, or many of us, are so appreciative of the fleeting moments of life that's still in front of us. And so we take, life slows down. It speeds up, but it also slows down. Anyway, that's a little sidebar. My commitments going into the weekend was to, number one, bring out the boogie shoes. Number two, have some quality conversations with people. And number three, which is something I pledged on this video cast a couple weeks ago now, was I was going to do it alcohol free. And being the historically super shy kid at school, it would have been really nice to have broken that commitment to myself. Or would have been easy, probably not nice, to have broken that commitment to myself and to say, oh, it's a celebratory event, I don't need to keep that commitment. And it's a party and everyone needs to, participate. So I'm proud to say one of the things I am actually happiest about the weekend was keeping that commitment to myself. And that's the title of today's topic, is how keeping commitments to ourselves accelerates change. So, we're all taking steps towards a significant change. I shouldn't say we're all taking steps, but for those of us who are taking steps towards a significant change, it's really easy to get caught up into the excitement of what that change is going to bring in our life. And super motivating, vision boards and goal statements and measurements and feedback and all of that. But then there comes some keystone habits that underpin that change. And so, as I began this health journey, one of the things that I decided to do was to seek out some models of behavior, seek out some keystone habits that I could begin to commit to. And I think, as I mentioned before on one of the videos, for me, I've sought so many different models over the years in terms of weight loss and health that it's really easy for me to get spun around and get attracted to the shiny new one that is just published. And so in this case, what I've done is I'm drawing upon those successes that I've had in the past and looked at the keystone habits that were in place at that time and to reinstall those for this change process this time. And so if I go back, there were a number of keystone habits. One was a commitment to daily writing and daily reflection, because a lot of times with weight, it isn't what we're eating as much as what's eating us. And so we got to get to those feelings, we got to get to those emotions, we've got to mine those out, we've got to figure out what those are going on and process those without numbing ourselves over food. That's my MO. But so that daily practice of writing and getting the emotions out is super helpful to me as an emotional eater. The second keystone habit of that era was really looking at my portion sizes and not giving myself a pass to keep eating till I felt full. And so, portion control, not going back for seconds, and not be so hung up on the specific foods, but just, looking at overall portions, sizes, and portion controls. That was a keystone habit. But the third one, and probably most important for me, was I curtailed and eliminated alcohol. And you think, well, gosh, isn't weight loss about calories in and calories out? I'm not sure I buy into that methodology anymore. I just see so many more variables. I don't think you can boil down the complexity of our body to a simple math equation. But I do know that when I take alcohol out, it allows me to process more completely the emotions within. And so for me, this decision to take the alcohol out is a keystone habit. So going into this weekend, I was publicly accountable about that particular keystone habit change that I wanted to implement. And so going into this weekend, I had already made the commitment to myself that I wasn't going to drink. And despite, super heavy social pressure to do so, peer pressure. And so coming out of this reunion weekend, what's happening when you keep your commitments to yourself is that you begin to underpin and to reshape your identity. So, one of my virtual mentors, when he was 100 pounds heavier than himself, than what he is today, declared himself an athlete right on his podcast and in subsequent podcasts after that. He constantly declared himself an athlete. And I remember at the time I was not as enlightened as I am today. That's a daily activity. But I thought, gosh, you're the furthest thing from an athlete I think I've seen. But it doesn't matter what other people think about our declarations and our identity. It's what we believe. And today, he is the epitome of an athlete. But a couple years later, he works out 6 days a week. He's lean and trim. His energy level's through the roof. And more importantly, he is a new person. He's a new creation, like it says in the Bible. He has accepted that identity, and he has stepped into that identity. So keeping daily commitments to ourselves when we're in the process of changing habits that will underpin the change that we're driving towards, I think is foundational to that identity that we're looking for. So, lesson for me that I'll share with you is that I think it's super important to keep our own commitments to ourselves. Much more so than any commitment to anyone else. It's more important to keep it to ourselves. That builds pride. It builds a sense of achievement and accomplishment that fuels that change. So that's I see it as an accelerant to the change that we're all imagining. So let me just share one other thing with you guys. I mentioned that I'm stepping into a new identity and that these videos are part of that process for me of learning and growing and doing. And so for the next few videos, we'll be sharing specific game plan that I've been thinking about in terms of how to shape and accelerate your change. It's the process I'm using here to reshape my identity, reshape my physical, spiritual, and mental, the way I show up in the world in those dimensions. And I'll be sharing those with you over the next, it's on my mind, and it's really going to be the foundation of what I'll be sharing for the next little while. And it's an acronym that spells win and gift. And I believe that as we step through change, there's a gift that's unfolding right in front of us. We may have some plans. We don't totally know how that's all going to turn out. But I think the process of change can be such a huge gift for us. And it's within our reach, and it's up to us to win it. So I'll go into depth in terms of what each of those letters mean and how we can together think about change in a different way, change our mindset, and change our lives. So with that, you guys have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow morning, because the other commitment I make to myself is to show up here and be with you and talk about change, mindset, faith, and transformation. Have a great day, guys. See you tomorrow.